Welcome to this edition of Brownsville at Large. I'm your host, Tino. As you know, the Brownsville Independent School District has called for a bond election this November. The bond includes two propositions worth $460 million. Proposition A, $385 million, calls for a district-wide renovation, upgrades, and construction of a new career and technical center. Proposition B, for $75 million, calls for a new performing arts center for the district. To find out more and dive into the details, we are joined in the studio by none other than BISD Superintendent, Dr. Jesús H. Chávez. Dr. Chávez, welcome to the show.
I want you to be comfortable. This is our little set here for Brownsville. Usually what we've been doing is having just informative talks of things happening within the city.
Sure.
This time it happens to deal with the independent school district, something that we're great partners. We don't really dive into each other from a city standpoint, but I've been in education for 2 decades. I'm the athletic director, head football coach at St. Joe. So I've been a champion for youth, and I'm a big fan of BISD. We're an awesome partner, and I'm just honored to have you today on the show to talk to us about a very hot topic, which is the bonds that are going to be in the November election. So
Yes.
Welcome to the show. Doctor, talk to us just about the propositions that we're going to find on the ballot in November.
Sure. Well, Tino, first of all, thank you so much for allowing us to be here. Part of the responsibility I have is to give information. And so I really appreciate the opportunity of being here and look forward to the questions and the discussion that we're going to have. So here, what the board has approved, of course, is a bond election. And it's under two propositions, Proposition A and Proposition B, and we're going to talk in more detail about each of those. But the election is going to be held on November the 4th. Now, remember that we have early voting, right? And so we start that on actually October the 20th. So people can vote early and or they can vote on November the 4th.
Perfect. Let's break it down. Proposition A.
Yes.
Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Well, Proposition A is the one that deals with our schools mainly, right? There's 39 schools that are going to be addressed. And here, part of the thing that we're focused on is really getting our schools to where roofs that have been leaking for a while and continue to leak, they would be addressed. In addition to that, we've got air conditioning systems. I know we had the start of school, and really, if you think of the last 2 months, our people have been working, right? And they've been working on repairing very old air conditioning equipment that breaks down from time to time. I know we've had some issues out there, but that relates back to the old equipment that we have that needs to be replaced. So air conditioning is another big area. Of course, there's some windows as well. When you think of some of our schools, it's hard to believe, but some of our schools have 50-year-old windows that are made of that fiberglass. They don't even have glass in the window. And so it's a situation of addressing major needs. And so that's what Proposition A is about.
And Proposition B?
Well, Proposition B, one of the things that has been talked about over a great number of years has been a performing arts center. And I'm sure we're going to get more into the detail of that. But Proposition B is a performing arts center. It is a larger one that people had thought about right from the aspect of initially we were thinking of a 1,200 student performing arts center. Actually, what the board wanted to do is they want to do a larger one. Mm-hmm. And so here we moved to an 1,800 student seat auditorium. Now, I say, students, it is going to be open to the community. One of the things that the board wanted to be sure of that we did was that, yes, we use the Performing Arts Center for our community, but they also wanted it open to other people that might be coming either from parts of the state or even from, country people that maybe perform, in other parts of the country for them to come in and perform. And so it is going to be open up for some of those activities as well. So Proposition A, relates to the schools. Proposition B is the Performing Arts Center.
And how do you break that down from a cost standpoint, Proposition
Sure.
A?
Well, and let me talk a little bit about that because I think here, people are going to wonder, well, where did these dollars come from? First of all, we had a very large citizens group that undertook the study to take a look at what needs we had. They visited all of the campuses. They visited central office facilities. They visited, our maintenance area. They visited our busing area. They visited all the facilities within the district and then came forth with a recommendation. And so here, when you see the list of items, that is what we're recommending. Now here, let me talk a little bit about the history, right?
Sure.
So here, I had proposed that yes, we do the study November through January, which happened, right? And so they took 3 months to do the study and prepare a report for the board. That report was presented on January the 28th. Now the idea had been that we actually would have an election in May. Now, and some of you might remember this, and I'm not. I wanted to, be factual with you and tell you what happened.
Sure.
I actually was out, January, February, and part of March. I had some health issues, surgery that I needed to take care of, and I did, but I was out. And I say that from the aspect of that we at that time as a district had a difficulty moving forward for a May election. And so that wasn't held, right? So when I came back in March, then I immediately thought about we need to address some of the needs that we have within the district. And I mentioned, those are basic things that our schools need, our children need. So here, I went ahead and continued working with our board, worked with them over the summertime, told them that in August, we would be making a decision about whether the board, wanted to have an election for November the 4th. And so that was voted on, and we had a majority of the board who voted for that. So that was the delay. The other thing I need to say about that is that because I was not here, again, January, February, most of March, I was not. I didn't have the opportunity to review the final report and provide, direct input and direct ideas, direct help, to the community, to our district. And so when I came back, I did take a look at what was being proposed. And one of the things that I noticed was that we really had not included the increase in cost as you go from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4. And so that's the reason you see a little bit of change, right, from the aspect of initially we were talking about $350 million. Well, with those increases that occur, and things get more expensive as time goes on, I want to make sure that, yes, if we said we're going to build this particular facility at this particular size, we want to make sure that, yes, we have those funds depending on when it's going to be built. Is it going to be built year 1? Or is it going to be built year 5 when things have gone up tremendously, right? So that's the difference, between the 350 and the 385 million. We wanted to be sure we had that increase in cost that's going to happen. So that's the explanation to that. So here you've got Proposition A, $385 million, and then you've got Proposition B, which is the $75 million. Let me also say with regards to the Performing Arts Center, yes, it's a center, right? From the aspect of you have the 1,800 seats, and then whenever you go into a building, you've got the entrance area, so it includes the entrance area. But one of the things that people need to understand is that it also is going to include some rooms next to it. Why do you need rooms? Well, those of us who have been in choir, band, or other performances, that when you have competitions, you may have 3 or 4 bands that are ready to go out. Right, one of them's performing. The other 3 are getting ready, and so you need space for them.
Sure.
Same thing with choir. And so that's the way that was designed. It has classrooms as well for those competitions.
That's phenomenal. I'll tell you, one of the most important things and the reason that this podcast existed was for us to get anything and everything about our city out to the public with information. Yes. And so, this is an informative podcast, and I do know that the more information that's out there, and hopefully there's viewers that are going to watch this and are going to have some of their questions answered. I have a couple of questions that are tough, right? And they're just come from our viewership. We have built a pretty good viewership over the last 8 episodes, and I can tell you that some of the questions out there and some of the doubt that's out there that we have to address, and hopefully you can address that for us today. Begin with something like this. Let's say that earlier this year, and I think you addressed a little bit of it right now, the bond was for $350 million, and then the board approves $460. And I think you answered, why the increase of $110 million? And I think you had just answered that, right? You want to readdress that?
Sure. Well, here, remember that, again, the study that was done on how much does it cost to improve this particular building, right? Whether you think of the air conditioning, the windows, whether you think of roofs, all those things that would be included in that renovation. And now keep in mind that, yes, that was done and reported out in January. one of the things that I wanted to be sure of that was addressed was, well, how about if you build this in year 3? Or how about if you build it in year 5, right? Because we can't build all of it. And I'll come back to that as to why it was done that way, because we are thinking of the taxpayer and what increases would be there, right? So here we decided that, yes, we wanted to be sure that we had the necessary dollars for the buildings that were recommended for renovation, and of course for the CTE center, which again would be a new building. So that was why the change from the 350 to the 385. It was, I wanted to be sure that there were sufficient dollars for the increases of cost that had happened from one year to the next to the next. With regards to the 350 and the 385, right, which is where we are today, that addresses the schools. Yes, it addresses also, busing area, for example.
Sure.
Our transportation people, if you go out to where they are, yes, we have the repair area that is a building. Everything else, portables. And now portables for people to eat, portables for people to meet, portables for meeting. I mean, it's just portables out there. They don't have a building. Yes, other departments have a building. So here the need again for a building for our bus drivers. And I mentioned that that's a smaller project, right? Here the main attention that we have is for the 39 campuses that are being addressed. On the other side, remember, so that's a 385. So why the 460? Well, the 460 is added when then you consider the $75 million for a Performing Arts Center. Now remember, these are going to be two separate propositions. People get to vote yes or no on Proposition A, and then they get to vote yes or no on Proposition B. So the decision is really for the community, and here for the citizens, right, who go out and vote and vote yes or vote no. I mean, that's a privilege that they have. For me, and for our responsibility as a school district is to provide the information. What is going to get built? What's the square footage? How many air conditioning systems are going to be addressed? That kind of thing. And so we do have that on the website. That's one of the things that I would encourage people to do is to visit the website. And we actually have it school by school. And so we have the 39
so you
schools.
have a full listing of everything that's going to be repaired school by school.
Yes, very, very much so. And I'll go through one of them here in a few minutes just to give an example, right? So it's by school. It lists the projects and the total cost that's going to be spent at that particular site.
Wow. Another question is, when it was $350 million, we were going to see an increase of approximately 2.9 cents in 2026. With a $460 million bond, what are the taxpayers expecting that increase to look like now?
Well, let me that's a really, really good question, because one of the things that I need to emphasize to our individuals, remember, we have a 5-year plan, right? And the reason we did a 5-year plan is so that the amount of dollars that would be necessary, the bond dollars that would be necessary, would be smaller amounts, a certain amount every year. And so we have that information. We start with a little over $100 million, but on some of those we go down to $70 million for the year, right? Now that impacts the tax that one has. So we're starting with a smaller amount, and so this particular year, for example, our rate, by the way, is 4 cents for our interest and sinking fund. That's what pays for the construction of the buildings, right? Now remember that was at 24 cents. So from 24 cents, it's come down to 4. That's why, yes, there's this opportunity then to go to the bond election and see if the community wants us to address these fixes to the schools. And then that allows you to have the capacity to yes, from 4 cents, go up to the 9 cents. But really, when you think of that, that's only it's going to be less than 5 cent increase from one year to the next. Now, what were we at? We were at 24. We're still going to be under 9 cents the first year. So that's a slow increase, right? And for the $385 million, yes, eventually on the 5th year, it would go up to the around 24 cents. And then if one wants to do the Performing Arts Center, then there's another 4 cent increase to that. So that's the way the taxes work. one of the things, as it relates to the amount at the end of 5 years, is that actual amount is going to be less than what people were charged this past year. This past year, if you looked at an average valued home, you were paying over $800. When you get to 5 years later, now remember 5 years, not next year, not the second year, but 5 years later, you get to under $800 for an average priced home. We're talking an average priced home, and that's an important key point that I want to make. But it's still going to be less than the over $800 that you were paying this past year. So we've been very conscious of the tax rate. Mm-hmm. And we don't, we want to have the smaller impact to our community as we move forward. That's the reason we put it in 5 years.
Thank you. I mean, that's. I think it's important, right, to let the viewers know and let the citizens know that you're taking a look at that, right, at the
Certainly.
taxes and being very meticulous on how that rate is going to increase over a span of 5 years.
Well, and let me mention this because, again, we want to be sure. I want to be sure that, yes, people have information. We have a lot of information on the website. But let me also say, just the way I'm with you here today, if there are any other groups out there, even if it's a small group, in the past, I've met with a small group of 4 individuals who wanted information on the upcoming bond election. And so I'm available for that. Our leadership is available for that. Our board members are available for that. If anybody out there would like to have a presentation, a discussion the way we're having today on the bond election, I'm happy to go. So, just call my office and we'll set up an appointment.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I have some people message me when I said, look, I think I want to make sure that we have BISD, we have Dr. Chavez on so that we can answer some questions. And I think one of them, in 2017, people said, Tino, back in the day, I remember that we did approve a $100 million bond to include a performing arts center at the time that was, I think, slated to be there on the curve of Morrison Road. What happened to that project and what happened to that bond, the money?
Sure. So here we do have the Morrison property. And so right now the thinking is, if the voters want us to move forward with a performing arts center, that's where it would be placed. That's where we have the property, and the district has been talking about that for a number of years. Here, going back to the discussion around paying for one, yeah, I know that was discussed, all right? No question about that. That was discussed. It was talked about. But when the decision was made by the district to what was going to be addressed, no, that wasn't the item that was going to be addressed with the dollars available. Now, remember, there were a lot less dollars available back then. And yes, the district had other needs as well. So when you think of a few of the areas that have been addressed, very small amounts in a number of our schools, and so that's the reason that didn't move forward, right? From the standpoint of that there were other district needs, other school needs that needed to be addressed, that were addressed. And in the initial outlay of the monies, at that point, no, the decision wasn't to put it on the Performing Arts Center. The decision was to put it over a number of schools because those were, at that time, the decision was made, those are more critical needs that we have. So that's the reason, yes, school projects were addressed. That specific area one was not. Hence, again, if we do want to move forward with that, the proposal then for the dollars to be available, and it's a community decision, right?
Sure.
It's a community decision. The community will decide, yes, we want that, we'll approve it, or no, we don't want that, and they'll vote against it. The option is there for the people.
Perfect. I know that you have those, I think it's 19 acres, right, on Morrison Road?
Yes, sir.
Around 19 acres. 3 schools closed last year, and there are some other properties that BISD has that maybe not being utilized right now. As the enrollment keeps kind of shrinking and maybe not growing, have you guys thought about selling those properties or trying to figure out how to use that and leverage those assets?
Sure.
For funds to fund these kind of projects?
So the answer is yes. As a matter of fact, if you're interested in the property, give me a call, and we'll be happy to take a look at that. I know we've got 4 properties that are out for sale right now, and we're needing to sell a number of our properties. Now, if you think of some of the areas that are growing, if you think of the north side of our district, west side of our district, that area is growing. So there's some properties there that no, we would not want to sell because yes, eventually you may need them for a school. So we are interested in selling properties. Again, give me a call and we'll talk more detail. The other part to this, and let me talk about the enrollment because that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Here folks may say, well, why 39? Why 39 schools? Why not all of them, right? Keep in mind that yes, we are going down in enrollment. We are estimated to continue to lose about 1,000 students here over the next 4 years. Now it'll flatten out, if you will, right? I think yes, at some point we will stop losing students, and at that point we'll continue maybe gain a few, but that's going to take another 4 or 5 years for us to get to that point. And this is happening to everybody. I was thinking about the aspect of my family when I was going to school. And by the way, I went to school here. I went to Cromack, Falk, Brownsville High School, now Hanna, and I graduated in '76 from Porter. Now, I mentioned that because at that point we were growing a whole lot. Well, there were 6 of us. There were 6 children in my mom and dad's family, right? They had 6 children. Nowadays, I've got 2, right? I had 2. I didn't have the 6. But nowadays, a lot of families only have the 1. There's some families that wait and maybe don't have any children. And I say that because, yes, that's part of the reason that we are going down in our enrollment, right? The families that had the 6, well, they're grandparents now and are older, but the younger ones, very few students. That's part of the reason we have lost. Now, we do have to take a look at how many students do we have and how many campuses do we need. Our taxpayers wouldn't want to pay for the extra schools just for very few kids that would attend at that school. So we are being responsible also to our taxpayers to be sure we have the necessary schools for the enrollments that we have. And if a school has come down tremendously in the enrollment, and that's happened, and we can talk about which some of those are. I've seen that. I have seen that.
The Cummings sale, and by the way, from a city standpoint, thank you guys very much for working with the city. The zoo expansion is a huge undertaking. It's a vital asset to Brownsville. When you look at the South Texas, we're the only city in the south part of Texas that has a zoo, and our expansion couldn't have happened without you guys. So first and foremost, thank you. And but with that sale, now comes the challenge of what do we do and where does the district land the new CTE facility? Do you guys have an estimated cost or location or anything? Because I do think that the sale, it can only cover phase 1, right, of the building, and hence why this is also part of Proposition A.
Yes, that's correct. The additional necessary, and it's $30 million that are necessary for the CTE center. And just to give you some history, remember that the center was placed at a former school, right?
Yes.
Cummings. Now, I say that from the aspect of, Cummings wasn't designed for that. The rooms are not of the proper size, the ceiling size, the necessary things, for a good place for a CTE for our students. So we knew that the city, the zoo, wanted the expansion, right? And so that was a good property for us to make available. Use those dollars, which is, it's going to be a little over $17 million that are going to be available when you take in the cost and monies that are there and the interest that you can dedicate. Then meaning you don't need, let's say, the $48 million for the entirety of that. So we have part of it, and we've started the design, if you will. We are looking right now at where that might go. We're having some folks evaluate the facilities that we do have, the acreage that we do have, to see where we would place this. But within the bond election, there is that $30 million necessary for the total 10 classrooms, 10 areas, 10 programs that we want to have in the CTE Center. So that's the way that's in the plans right now.
Perfect. So again, just revisiting for the viewers, there's a list, a transparent list on the website where
Yes.
people can go in and see campus by campus, repair by repair for Proposition A, right? Like what Proposition A is wanting to do. That's on your website.
It is. For example, I mean, I'm on the website right now, and so it has a description of Proposition A and what it includes, Proposition B and what it includes. If you go to the bottom of that, it actually has five, 6 different areas that you can go to and get additional information. If you press on the bond project by campus or department, then it quickly gets you to our listing of schools. For example, what high school areas are going to be addressed? You've got Brownsville Early College, you've got Brownsville Academic Center, Hanna, Lincoln, Perez, Pace, Porter, Rivera, Veterans. All those high schools are getting something addressed with them. Okay, it's got the listing of middle schools. It's got the listing of elementaries. If you look at, I'm just going to print on. I pressed on Lucio here. New door of restroom additions. They need some elevators addressed. They need access to the control system and exterior doors. We also have pictures, by the way. And so pictures are shown, for all of these projects so that people can not only see the listing, but they can actually see the pictures. So, yes, let me refer everybody to the website. Remember that in addition to that, I and or others on our staff, board members can come speak to you as well and give you a presentation similar to what we've done here today, right?
Sure.
Giving you information on the dates, the amounts, the tax impact. People are very interested in that. That's on the website as well. So we are here to provide as much information to not only everybody, but if you'd like to have us come visit with you, we're happy to do that as well.
Awesome. So the obvious question, what's plan B if the voters do not approve the bond?
Sure. Well, if it's not approved, then the work doesn't get done. Yes, we, the district, would continue to fix whatever we could fix. Now, keep in mind that that's a limited amount of dollars, right? Because at that point, what you're doing is you're taking away dollars from your operations.
Correct.
You're taking away dollars that would be available for salary increases, for the materials and supplies that students need and schools need. You're taking dollars away from that to fix roofs or to fix your air conditioning, right? And so that, yes, that's been in place and that would continue. Very small amounts, very small things would be addressed. I would think then what the district would do is a year later, 2 years later, come back to the voters. Maybe the voters didn't like the amount and they would want to do this in a slower pace that's being proposed. So there is the possibility that, let's say no voters don't approve it, they don't go forward with it, that this would be discussed another year and a half from now, 2 years down the road for things. Now, at that point, things probably would have gotten worse about, well, how much rain is coming in?
Worse and more expensive to repair.
Well, most definitely.
Well, we deal with that. We just, the city of Brownsville just approved the largest capital improvement plan in the history of the city. Because there's only so much we can do with operational costs to fix streets and drainage. And if we want to really take a big leap at that, we're going to need a lot more dollars. So I think it's important to let the viewers know, right? Because they're the voters, and informing them, like you said, it's a choice that our citizens have to really take a look at our district. I mean, it's been very informative. I know that that people, and I think you've answered the questions, and thank you so much for that. I know that there's a lot of people who have asked me, they're like, Tino, but if we're losing students, why are we taking out such a big bond? And I can just share with you, that at St. Joseph Academy, where I work, it's
Yes.
a very small campus. We have 400 students, and but we have about 40 some units of air conditioning and HVAC and things that just with the weather and humidity and things, they just go bad. And repairing that, you don't see it, but it's very costly. And I know that we've been trying since post COVID to really take a look at redoing our roofs, redoing our ACs, and it's been quite a bit of a challenge for us as well. I can only imagine 39 campuses with way more than 400 students, what that looks like on that. But is there anything else that you want to add, Dr. Chavez? Hopefully this is going to be a very viewed
Sure.
podcast. I think there's going to be a lot of people tuning in to see your answers towards it. And is there anything else you want to add before we conclude?
Well, I certainly encourage folks to visit the website and view the bond information. Remember that people have to be registered to vote, right? And so right now you still can register to vote. I want to say early October is the deadline. October 10th is what's coming to my mind.
I think
But,
it's like a month. I would in my brain it's a month
Yes.
before the election, so October 4th. In my brain,
Yes,
it might be
yes.
the 10th, but yeah.
So here you register to vote. Then of course early voting starts on October the 20th,
20th.
and then election November the 4th. And remember, we're available to come and provide you the information as we've discussed today.
Perfect. Yeah. And if anybody wants more information, you just heard Dr. Chavez say that he's available, him, his leadership, or the board to go visit with you, even if it's a small pocket of people that want this kind of information or have additional questions that maybe we didn't discuss on the show today. But Dr. Chavez, thank you for joining me. Remember our friends out there, Election Day, November 4th, early voting starts October 20th. Get the information, visit the website. If you want information, call the district, schedule Dr. Chavez. He's made himself available to go answer questions to your community, to a little small town hall that you want to organize for him with people who have more questions and want more information about the bonds. But that's going to wrap up the show. Dr. Chavez, thank you again
so
for your
much.
time. I really appreciate it. Folks, that's episode with BISD, Dr. Chavez on Brownsville at Large. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.